Hey everybody, welcome back to Exploring with the Smiths. Today we're going to go over my pre-ride prep. This is going to involve basically three main parts. I'm going to first check out the bikes. I'm going to check the air pressure. I'm going to check the function of the gears, the brakes, make sure everything is in good working order. I will typically do this sometimes the morning before we go for a ride, sometimes a day or two before the ride. So it just depends on what your schedule allows, but I do recommend every ride you do a pre-bike check. Now you can see here I got a nice bike stand. I got this one on Amazon, about $100. You're gonna need this because you have to pedal the bike and run through your gears and get the rear tire spinning, the front tire spinning, so you can check the condition of your brakes and just make sure everything is in good working order before you go for your ride, so you have a less chance of problems out on the road. Okay, so this one, I like a lot of them. Park Tool makes a good one. It's more expensive, but I highly recommend just get online. If you're gonna get into this hobby, you're gonna need this as part of your arsenal of taking care of your bikes. You'll also need to keep them in a place like this, in a garage that's relatively cool and dry and relatively climate controlled. You certainly don't want to store them out where they're exposed to the fluctuations of the weather, obviously. Even though these are mostly aluminum, you got aluminum frame, aluminum handlebars, but there are some steel components that need to be protected from the weather. Now the other part that we're going to do is not just checking the gears and the brakes, the true of the tire, make sure the tires are spinning nice and straight and not wobbling at all, which will involve using a adjustment of your spokes. And there's a lot of videos online. If your wheel is not true and it's doing this and it'll rub up against the brake pads, you can take it to a professional bike shop and have the rim trued, or get online. Bike Man For You is an old series of videos that's out there. He showed me a good way of quickly truing your tire. But you'll need what's called a spoke wrench for tightening and loosening your spokes, and that's what will true your tire. Next, after we go through this, I'm going to show you what I carry on the ride. No, it's not just a water bottle and yourself. You need a lot more than that on your rides so that you can have what you need when you need it. The third part of this preparatory equation is going to be putting on a rack on your car so you can get to the rail trail system. Some people use a hanging rack. I like to use the Swagman supportive rack, which the tires will actually sit down on a support system. And I would highly recommend having either a 1 1/4 hitch or a 2x2 hitch, depending on the vehicle. We had a BMW 330i for years and years, and I actually installed a hitch myself with a kit you can buy online. So you can get online, look for hitch kits. A lot of them you can install yourself. They're not hard to install. They're very easy to install. It took me maybe 30-45 minutes to install the hitch kit on my BMW 330i. And I currently, with our new vehicle, I had a professional install a 2x2 hitch, heavy duty hitch, because in this vehicle, right where the hitch goes, there's a nice stainless steel muffler system, exhaust system, that I did not want to mess with. And it kind of fits up and around that. So I took it to a local shop. He installed it with the cost of the hitch. Everything was $300 out the door. Well worth it. We'll get, years and years and years of use out of this hitch on all of our bike rides. If you have the type that attaches with strapping, I used to use this back in the day. I had an old classic Volkswagen Bug, a 69 that I had restored in college that I used for my bike rides, and I did have a system like that used straps to attach at various places on the vehicle. And then after college I got a Volkswagen Jetta, and I used it on that as well, and I also used to take my bike on campus to ride between classes when the weather was decent. I would highly recommend, if you're using a strap system, They're not the most reliable, especially if you're going to be up on the freeway. So I highly recommend at some point you take the plunge and get a hitch on your vehicle. It's going to be a lot more sturdy, a lot more reliable. And let's face it, you're going to have hundreds and hundreds of dollars invested in these bicycles. You certainly don't want to see them tumbling down the road or get to where you're going and realize there's no bicycles on the back of your vehicle. We use the Trek multi-track. They do not make these anymore, unfortunately, but I highly recommend that you look around online, do your homework. The big ones are going to be Trek, Specialized, and Giant are your three big bike manufacturers out there. And if you can possibly get it on your list to get a front fork system, it really helps, because some of the trails we're riding on, they'll have ridges or bad spots on the road, and it will help reduce the occurrence of pinch flats on your inner tube. It's got some give to them. And then we've also got on these multi-tracks, and you can put these on any bike if you buy a bike that does not have this, a shock post for your seat. It really helps make the ride more comfortable. A rack system. These are inexpensive. This one's aluminum. You notice that I do have a spare pump, right? Bicycle pump. Now in our vehicle, we will also, in our trunk, we have another spare regular bicycle pump, okay? Now before I go on my rides, you'll see here later in the video that I keep a small, what's called a air compressor in my main garage. And if you don't have one, I highly recommend you get one. They're not expensive, about 125 bucks. I got a 50-foot hose on this one with an air chock. I can use it on the vehicles, especially when we start getting cold weather in the fall, to make sure my air pressure in my tires is where it should be. And I can also use it on my bicycles. So that's a great investment. They last for years, and it will keep your tires properly maintained. So the other thing we're going to do too, before we do our bike ride, is we are going to do some lubrication. Now a lot of people like to use WD-40, and I do use it in certain circumstances, but I personally prefer silicone. Good bike chain oil that you can purchase specifically for bicycle chains. And I also like to use just a good penetrating oil. It's called a penetrating oil. It has a surfactant in the oil that lets it get into all the little nooks and the crannies, and that's what I go to when I'm lubing my chain. I just needs a little bit while you're rotating your crank and getting your chain to move, so that it will circulate that lubricant all over your gears and all over your chain. Now what I like to do too, guys, at least once a season, and I noticed on our last bike ride, I was noticing some gunk and trail debris, little seeds and flower petals and things like that starting to get up into the chain and into the rear gear system. It was looking gunky. So what I'll typically do is I will take the bikes, our driveway here, we have some gravel areas where I can spray some degreaser and get the grease loose, and then I just take it and spray, find an old rag and hit it with some degreaser, put this on your chain, rotate the chain, get a small old toothbrush, get in there and get all that gunk out of there. I personally do not like those fancy schmancy what they call chain cleaners that snap on. They tend to break, they're plastic, they don't hold up, and then you've got all that cleaner and grime to clean out of it. It's really just a lot simpler to maybe put down an old towel or some rags, spray some degreaser, get in there with an old toothbrush, and just kind of give it a good cleaning at least once a season, and then re-lube the chain. The next tip I have is gloves. Okay, you can get these just about anywhere. I buy these by the box at Costco. If you're a Costco member, you can get them there. They're stretchy, they fit nice and tight, so it's easy to work with them with your dexterity. And then obviously the rubber. So I keep a pair here in the shop. I put a pair in the trunk of the car with my bike pump in case I have any issues in the field. And I also will keep a pair of these in my panniers. So if we have trouble on the trail, I can really get down and fix the bike. Sometimes you'll find people on the trail that need help, that have broken down, that did not bring what they need in case their bike breaks down, and you can stop and help someone and give them a hand and not get your hands all greasy in the process. All right, a hot tip there for you guys. These things are great. I use them for my work and I use them here at home, gardening, whatever. These are amazing. I love them because your hands won't get as hot because it's a stretchy material in the back. Let your hand breathe. Okay, sports fans, bicycling fans, we are going to go over what I carry in my panniers here real quick. Now this is the pannier set that my wife and I use. It's got the reflective stripes. We actually ordered these probably 10 years or so. We probably had these maybe even 12 years. I can't even remember, we've had them for so long. It's just a good basic set of black panniers. They were probably 30 bucks a set. With my rack, my mountain rack, and my pannier set, you know, we're for 2 bikes, we were talking probably 125 bucks total. We've used them and used them, so it's well worth the investment. And you've got your gear with you on your ride that you will need sooner or later. Okay, so panniers, basically, this is your backpack for your bike, right? When we go on a hike, we each have a backpack. We have water, plenty of water. We have a filtration system, so in case we need to go down to a stream or a lake or a pond and get more drinking water, if we go through our existing just drinking water, we also carry that on our bikes. Hot tip, they're not expensive. You can get them online. Amazon sells them. Any of your outdoor shops will carry them, and all you need is a filtration, a filter system. So once we get our pannier, this is what I carry in my pannier as of today. This is the kind of stuff that I'm bringing with me on my ride. Number 1, mini tool set. Okay, this one is made by Bell. It also has tire levers on either side for taking your tires off of your rim. We've got a complete set of tools here. On the other side, we've got fold-out wrenches. These are actually really handy. It can separate, so you can use one or the other if you need to in the field. Highly recommend. I think I picked this up at a Walmart for probably less than $10. Then I have a separate set of tire levers. I've had these old trusties. I had these things probably 30 plus years. Bungees. You gotta have these. You use them for multiple things. Sometimes we'll do a picnic lunch and I'll bring a nice igloo cooler or something, a smaller cooler, and I'll actually strap it to the top, and I'll use this to strap it down with. You could use them for a lot of things on the trail that you may need them for. They actually will act as a tourniquet if you need one. Even though I carry a set of the work gloves, I still carry an extra set of rubber gloves like you'd find in a first aid kit. Just in case we have to render first aid to someone on the trail. Someone is wearing flip-flops, someone's being unsafe, someone is going maybe downhill too fast, their brakes gave out. You never know what you're going to encounter, and like we learned in the Boy Scouts, be prepared. So this is what we're going to segue into next here as part of our kit is medical first aid gloves. I've got an assortment of various bandages, antiseptic. I even have a large bandage here to act as I could use it as a tourniquet. I could use it as a compress to start bleeding. If someone wrecked really bad, maybe even got hit by a car and tore open a small artery or something, leg, arm, this can help stop the bleeding and save a life. Okay, another little kit. I bought a new first aid kit for our new car, and it came as a bonus, an extra little mini first aid kit. Got it on Amazon, hot tip. So you get the nice auto first aid kit, and this one came with a bonus first aid kit that I actually just went ahead and threw in the bicycle pannier. Snacks. I really like the Cliff Bars. This one is the kind. They're all pretty good. I personally prefer the Cliff Bar chocolate chip. They keep for a long time. You can throw them in the pannier at the start of the season, leave them in there all season, and we'll take them out and use them for our fall hikes and throw them in our backpacks. Okay, so hot tip there. These are amazing. Pocket knife. This is a official Boy Scout pocket knife. Gotta have it. You can use it for a number of things out on the trail if you need to. Just a good survival item in case you need it. Carabiner. Just a spare carabiner. We carry these in our backpacks for our hiking trips as well. You never know when you might need a carabiner. Hook something on your belt, you have to go for help, whatever. Hot tip, take it from a guy who's hiked and biked for 40 plus years. This is a great item to have with you. Spare rain jacket. A nice light rain jacket adds an outer layer. This one has the little kind of like a visor. This is a Stearns if you are into boating. We owned a sailboat for years and I learned the value of the Stearns wear. It holds up for years and years and years. Holds up and packs. And you never know when you might need this. We went out the other day for a ride and they said no rain. It ended up pouring rain and getting cold. And we were glad we had these with us. Another important piece of gear you should have for your bike when you get into rail trail riding is a cycle computer. Very important on calculating how far you've gone so you can know how far it's going to take to come back. Now, I prefer the Cat Eye. They make a great product. I love their cycle computers. And a lot of the newer models, this one's probably 10 years old. I relegated it from another bike when I purchased this new multi-track about 8 years ago. So it's been going that long. They really do hold up well. Now, the newer models will be wireless. So you'll have a unit that goes down by your wheel that will send the information up to the computer, and you'll need 2 batteries. With this old system, you only need the 1 battery that functions in the main control unit, and it's going to use a wire down to the wheel. Still work really well. They're less expensive than the wireless units. So you definitely want to pick these up. Maybe you can get them on Amazon or at your local bike shop for anywhere from 20 bucks to 50 bucks, depending on the model and if it's wireless or not. The other thing I'll carry in my pannier is, since my wife and I both have cycle computers, is I just pick up a pack of batteries that keep spare batteries. As long as you haven't taken the little film off of the battery, these can last for years. It's nice to have in case we do have an outage either on the trail, or sometimes we've even gotten to the trail and noticed, hey, my cycle computer isn't working, right? And they're cheap. You just throw them in your pannier and you got them in case you need them, okay? Now trust me, you don't want to go 20 miles one way and then realize, man, I'm getting really tired, I got to start heading back. We'll figure typically early season rides we'll do 10 to 15 miles, so we're talking 7 miles one way, 7 miles back. The other thing we're up to now is like 20 miles, and then by the tail end of the season we'll bump it up to like 30-mile trips. And you can be more aggressive with that. It's all up to your speed and what you want to do. There's people out there, they do 75 miles in a day, right? So, but this will help you keep track of your distance one way. So you don't bite off more than you can chew, and you can really keep track of what you're doing before you get in over your head and head back in the dark like we have sometimes, because we kind of lose track before we started using cycle computers. And last but not least, I'm going to tell you a short, quick little story here about a ride I did, one of my first rail trail rides, where I was not prepared like this. I thought, oh, nothing bad ever happens. You just need a bicycle and some water and you go for a ride. 10 miles down the trail, I get off the trail. I had my fishing pole with me, oddly enough. Of all things I had was a small tackle box and a fishing pole I had strapped to my bike, and a carrier. And I went off on a little trail and I went over a tree root, and it actually gave me what's called a pinch flat. And this is why I'm going to tell you, don't ever use and rely on the little patch kits, okay? I had a nice patch kit. I think what I did is I had like a little, one of those little seat carriers, you know, you used to put underneath your seat, and I had like a little mini tackle box, and I just strapped my fishing pole, you know, to the crossbar, the main crossbar on my bike, and I pull the tube out. I get the tube out, and there's these two long holes, and my patch kit would not hold. I tried and I tried. I finally ran out of the little cement, and I thought, wow, what am I gonna do now? It's a 10 miles back to my car. And it was probably, I think it was like a fall day, a mid-fall day. There wasn't a lot of people on the trail. It was I think this trail system I was on at the time, it was local here, was like a 35-mile trail, right? So, and it was starting to get dark. You know, it was probably happened around 5:30, and being fall, it was starting to get dark. Not a good choice on my part, but being a young man, I took lots of risks. Anyway, I start walking back, and when I get back, I go to the bike shop the next day to get a new inner tube, and the guy says, "What are you doing carrying a patch kit? Do you realize how cheap inner tubes are?" And I would thought, that's a good point. Why didn't I think of that? And he set me straight. And I still have that original bike. I've passed it on to my son. It was a Raleigh, and he set me up right away with a set of panniers, a rack, and proceeded to make me a list of things that I needed for my next bike ride, so I wouldn't have that problem again. But here's what I have. I just have a little pouch, and I've got two tubes in here, right? I've got one for my bike, and I have one for my wife's bike. She's got a little smaller diameter tire, so that's what you need with you, is a spare tube. Now, in her bike, there's another set of tubes. Okay, so we've got really 4 inner tubes with us. 2 for her bike, 2 for my bike. That way, you could get double flats and you're still going to be covered, and you're not going to be stranded. You can't always expect that someone's going to ride by and be able to help you. And in this case, unless another biker had a spare inner tube, he couldn't have helped me because those pinch flats were not going to get patched. Okay, that just wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to hold. Okay, so that's basically the rundown on what you need to have with you on a bike ride. I highly, highly recommend that you have these things and you do your pre-bike checkout every single ride. Okay, now we're going to put on the carrier, the Swagman XTC. I've had this carrier probably 6 to 8 years. You're going to need a socket and your gloves. This unit is a little shy of $200. Got it at my local bike shop. I also have the 4-bike carrier for carrying 4 bikes. That's one of the main reasons I went with a 2x2 hitch on this vehicle. That way, if I do want to bring a couple extra cyclists with us on a trip, I can go up to a 4-bike unit. So here we go. We're just inserting the bolt. Just a threaded bolt into the side. We got a cotter pin on the other side. We will attach once the bolt is tightened. And you want a little bit of movement, that little bit of sway. You'll see here, I'll tighten up that bolt. Get it good and snug and tight. Nice and tight. I'll put my cotter pin back in, and you can see there at the 2x2 hitch, there's 2 little attachments there, which I will actually thread a lock kit, a locking cable. All right, now we're going to get our gear loaded up before I start putting the bikes on. So I go through my Panniers. Have always got the same gear in them. We got our helmets. I keep all that stuff on a shelf in the other garage right next to the bikes so we don't forget anything. Now here I'm going to look in our cubby
And I'm going to make sure I've got the bicycle pump in my spare work gloves. You can see there back in the corner, I've got that mini pan air compressor with my 50-foot hose. I can't recommend those highly enough. So nice to have. So go ahead and you can see how well these support the bike. They're not hanging. You can't drag them. They sit up nice and high. You still have plenty of visibility for your brake lights, your backup camera. Now here I'm going to show you on this Swagman model, you've got a middle pin. You just slide in and make sure that that post stays nice and sturdy. And we got little rubber straps that will fit over the wheels. It's just an extra safety feature in case you hit a big bump, or God forbid you were in some kind of accident. The bikes are just not going to come off of the car. Now we'll start loading my wife's bike, and you can see here I alternate them so it's facing the opposite direction of the other bike. Push down the latch. Again, put the rubber straps over the wheels. And honestly, you do this once or twice, I can have these bikes ready to roll in less than 15 minutes. There's my cable lock, and notice you want something that's a combo lock so you don't have to mess with a key. We also have another lock like this we'll keep in my wife's pannier in case in a small little town we want to stop for ice cream or have lunch on the way of the trail. We can still lock up our bikes. And the nice thing about this system is I can lock up the outer bike so we can stop anywhere on the way there or when we get there to eat lunch. And I can also attach it to the back of the Swagman carrier so that it helps protect the carrier from theft also. Now here's that this air pistol, we'll call it, and it's got a tire gauge built into it. And these things are so nice. So this is what I'll do. I'll actually check the air pressure of the tires. These are rated for 70 psi. I typically go at 65. So we have a little bit of give to the tires, so they're not too hard. But this makes it so much more convenient. And periodically I can check the tires. I don't have to deal with going to a gas station and all that nonsense. I just have a small air compressor right there in my garage. And you can just do it yourself. This whole rig with the 50-foot of hose, the air pistol, the total cost of all of that was probably $175. Over in my barn, I have another air compressor, and I've got a 100-foot hose on that sucker. So I use them a lot. They work really well. I'm actually thinking about getting another air compressor for the other workshop. So I have it from when I'm working on stuff in the other workshop over the winter time. It just makes it more convenient. And they're not expensive. Okay, all done up. I'm going to give everything a final check, and we're ready to roll.
Okay, guys, I'm going to say it. This is the controversy about the trail riding. We got our bike, we got our carrier, we got our pannier. We're ready to ride. Why do we trail ride? We trail ride, guys, because we want to stay away from cars at all costs. Yes, you can ride on the roads legally in most states. And in Ohio, they have to, when a car passes you, technically they're supposed to give you a 3-foot berth as they pass you to give you that clearance that you need while you're riding. However, I learned a long time ago, and I have a friend who is a road biker. He's been hit 3 times. In our local area here, I can think of 4 people in the last 5 years that have been hit and killed on a road bike, left in the ditch, and the person that hit them kept going, and they found their body in the ditch dead because they were riding on the roads. Yes, you can ride on the roads, but you know what the old saying says, you can be right, but you can be dead right. Okay? That's why we want to, on this channel, promote rail trail riding. This is the safest way to get out on your bike. Yes, there are times you have to cross a road, but that is a short time that you would ever be close to being in contact with vehicles, okay? The other thing is, even on a rail trail system, guys, we still wear helmets, okay? Why? Well, my wife found out the first time I took her bicycling. We were dating, I had a spare bike, we loaded up the bikes, we went to the trail. She complained, I don't want to mess up my hair, right? I don't want to mess up my hair with that helmet, because I had a spare helmet as well. And I don't know what she did. She kind of lost control of the bike. I think maybe a chipmunk or a squirrel ran out in front of her on the trail, and she ended up down in the trail. Luckily, we weren't on a really steep embankment that went down to like a river or a, God forbid, you know, a rocky area. But she did end up in a pile of sticker bushes, raspberry bushes, right? Wild raspberry bushes. I mean, she found out really quick that day how fast just an accident on your bike caused by yourself or a little critter running onto the trail can crack your noggin on the trail surface, or God forbid, and we've seen this happen too, where oncoming cyclists are not paying attention, and they got their earbuds in, people passing you and not signaling that they're passing you, colliding with you and knocking you and or them off of your bikes onto the hard surface of the road. And next thing you know, you've got a cracked or fractured skull. So if you're gonna get into this sport and this activity, I highly recommend you do it. It's a lot of fun. It's very rewarding. It's good for you, and you see a lot of beautiful scenery and meet a lot of amazing people. But you have to be prepared, folks. You have to have your gear, proper gear, including a helmet, okay? And rail trail is a lot safer than being out on these roads. Okay. The other thing I want to point out to you guys that are getting into rail trail riding, for God's sake, stay away from Target and Walmart for your bike. Go to a reputable bike shop and buy a good quality bicycle. You can look on the internet, there's all kinds of videos out there about Walmart bikes. The bottom line is they're just not going to hold up. Yes, they're $150. It seems like, wow, you know, I can get into this for $150. Well, you're not, and be happy with your purchase. The more expensive bikes, the 450 plus bikes that you're going to find at a bike shop, are going to have better bearings. They're going to have better wheels. Everything is much higher quality. A lot less plastic components. We were at I'm not going to say the store. We were at a big box store. We were looking at the bikes they had, and I swear, kid you not, the wheels, the rims were plastic, okay? They didn't look plastic until I started flicking them and checking it out what the material they used. Now, they did use metal for the spokes, thank God, but the wheels were plastic. And a lot of the components for the brakes and the calipers were plastic. Then they don't look plastic. They paint them the color of metal. But when you get out on that trail and you're going down a slope and your bike doesn't stop because you pulled the handle and the plastic on your caliper brakes, that could be a really bad day. So I'm highly going to encourage you, if you can't afford the bike right now and you're tempted to buy that $150 Walmart bike, don't do it. Save up your money, save it up, wait a little longer, maybe wait till next season while you wait and save up some money to get a quality bicycle. We've had these Trek multi-tracks going on 8 years, okay? I have a Specialized bike my wife used to ride. We delegated to our daughter. It is still in perfectly working order, and that bike is over 12 years old. Okay, so I highly recommend you take the time and the money to get a quality bicycle. Thanks for coming along for the ride today, guys. I hope this information helps, especially you new bikers out there that are just getting into the hobby. And those of you that have already started and you've already run into these issues, I hope this reiterates the importance of having proper gear. All right, have a good one, and I'll see you on the next video. Ciao.